4 minutes until showtime. Three minutes until showtime.
It is what it is.
Two minutes until showtime. One minute until showtime. Your show will go live in 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1.
And welcome back to Liberal Dan Radio, Talk from the Left, that's right. This is your host, Dan Zimmerman. Coming at you from New Orleans, Louisiana. To join the conversation, it's area code 914-803-4131. That's area code 914-803-4131. You can also join us in the chat room at youtube.com/liberaldanradio. If you're on the Blog Talk Radio chat room, just head on over to YouTube. It's probably easier just to hang out in one chat room where we all can chat together in peace and harmony and love. Maybe not today's episode. I don't know. If you're listening after the live broadcast, you could always leave your comments, questions, etc. over on the show thread at liberaldan.com, facebook.com/liberaldanradio, and liberaldanradio on Twitter, and as always, or is it Zeter now, or whatever the hell it is, and over on here on YouTube on the show thread as well. I got a bunch of stuff to talk about. We're going to be talking about several instances, not just the 9th and 10th Amendment. I actually dug up some other stories and other things that I wanted to talk about that pertain to other amendments of the Constitution, that I feel that conservatives either don't embrace fully or that conservatives tend to not understand as I would best like them to, at least. And we could have that conversation, and some of the stuff that we may go over might be a little bit of a repeat of other stuff that we have gone over. We also have a birthday to celebrate. It's Aaron's birthday, one of the mod squads and one of the Liberal Dan Radio patrons. So happy birthday to Aaron. Maybe when we get a few more people in the room, I might go ahead and sing you a birthday song as well. We'll see. Maybe I might sing you 2 versions of the birthday song. Who knows? We shall see. Anywho. What else? What else to talk about before we get to headlines? Because I like to waste a little bit of time before we get to the headlines to let a few more people trickle into the room. I know Hal's maybe going a little bit long today. I don't know. I know he's traveling or whatever, so that might have affected his normal streaming schedule. So we got Robert Reynolds, Jolie. Shout out to Wes, Demonox. Your boy Chris. Who else? Of the Liberal Dan Radio patrons. Let me read through. We got Megan, Bill, Julie Swenson, the first Liberal Dan Radio producer, Cesar out in California, etc. Thank y'all for helping me out, being loyal supporters. I definitely appreciate it. One of the things that helps keep me going. Hal started way late. That's cool. And we got Gibson Media, one of our regular conservative listeners. I appreciate you joining for today. I definitely would appreciate your chat room responses today. Let's hold off on calls just for a little bit until we get to the main meat of the conversation. Aquatic, thank you also for joining. It should be a good conversation. I went over to TikTok and posted a little teaser for the show today and riled up some of the conservatives as well. Riled up some of the conservatives with some of my other stuff that I posted earlier this week too. They were none too happy about the parody that I made. Ooh, we'll talk about that a little bit as well. I have another bit for that as well. I made an extra bit for this week. If you're a patron, you already know because you've already seen it if you've seen the patron page. So. But I think we got enough for now. If you're viewing and you haven't liked it yet, please go ahead and like the video. If you haven't subscribe to the channel. Also remember, go like videos, subscribe to the channel, tell your friends to subscribe. I'm still trying to get that push. We're at the end of season 11. This is the season 11 finale. Of course, the season 12 finale starts next week, so it's not like there's a big break between seasons or anything. But I've actually done 52 shows on Blog Talk Radio at least. So if that says something, I might have missed weeks here and there, but I've done 52 whole shows on Blog Talk. Now, some of them may have had technical difficulties and you actually didn't hear anything on Blog Talk Radio, but 52 whole shows that I did on Blog Talk Radio, plus some additional shows that I did where I did just live streams here without going live on Blog Talk Radio, plus various videos and whatever. So it really helps the channel and really helps drive the algorithms up if you do interact with the videos. So I definitely appreciate y'all. Hey, Alarasia, appreciate you coming. Hey, Jeff. P-Dubs, as always, thank you. Jeff Curry, let's see. Morning news story, police in Lebanon have a MO, I think is Missouri, Missouri, have a house surrounded, not clear of suspects inside. Evening news update, after watching all day, cops enter, nobody's in there. Lovely. What a waste of manpower, taxpayer dollars, etc. Okay, so without further ado, this is this week's headlines. While giving a news conference today, Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell appeared to freeze, as if he's gone to the sunken place. Good thing he didn't fall on his back. Not a good place for turtles. In Georgia election conspiracy news, former New York mayor and current piece of garbage Rudy Giuliani admitted that his statements about Ruby Freeman and Shea Moss were false. In other news, the sun rises in the east, sets in the west, water makes things wet, and Donald Trump was found civilly liable for sexually abusing E. Jean Carroll. A judge decided that the Hunter Biden plea deal was not kosher and told the parties to go back and work it out. So until then, Hunter Biden pled not guilty. I guess till he pleads guilty again when they work it all out. Regardless, there is no laptop. Speaker of the House McCarthy has announced an intention to potentially start an impeachment inquiry against President Biden, making some GOP House members happy and others in swing districts very nervous. Speaking of which, this week's Hypocrite of the Week is Republican Speaker of the House Kevin McCarthy. When discussing the second impeachment of Donald Trump, he said that it would further divide the nation and fan the flames of partisan division. Now, the Speaker is threatening impeachment against President Biden. Why doesn't that fan the flames of division, Mr. Speaker? Or do you simply not care because you're in power and it's coming up on an election year? To see who next week's Hypocrite of the Week will be, tune in to Liberal Dan Radio. Talk from the left, that's right. Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Central on Liberal Dan Radio on YouTube and blogtalkradio.com/LiberalDan. In Ohio, a local police officer who sent his police canine to attack a stopped truck driver with his hands up, despite state police saying not to, has been fired. Why the driver was pulled over for simply missing mud flap is a mystery. Oh wait, no it's not. He's black. I wonder how many white truck drivers are pulled over for missing mud flaps. Finally, in serious news, Sinead O'Connor passed away from covering police's Nothing Compares to You to singing this season's theme for Outlander. She had a long and interesting career. She caught a lot of grief when she tried to call out the Catholic Church for its wrongs, something she was 100% right about. May your memory be a blessing, Sinead. Nothing and nobody compares to you. And that was this week's headlines. So, let's see. Gibson Media, as is typical of a private citizen, Joe Biden's son arrived in ostentatious presidential motorcade complete with security detail in federal court. Well, I mean, a lot of the family members of presidents, I guess, sometimes do get extra security simply because of the fact that, you know, they become targets. I.e., Hunter Biden has become a target of many people in the conservative media. Many conservatives just have it out for him, and they just want to go after him over and over and over and over again. So I don't blame them for wanting to have extra security for him. Makes perfect sense. Anyway, Jeff Curry, can anyone explain how Keith Richards is still alive? No, except for maybe the drugs that he did had extra preservatives in them. So, hey Kimchi, what's going on? So anyway, let's see. So the Jason Aldean video, the video parody that I did, let's see, it's not the Jason Aldean video that I did got some reactions, and people are really very bigly mad about the video that I did about Jason Aldean, and there were lots of angry reactions about it, big mad about it, or whatever, and it inspired me to make another commercial for everybody's favorite fictional establishment, which is Liberal Dan's Chopper City.
Well, dog, Liberal Dan Chopper City is back with another amazing deal for you. We've cut prices on all of last year's models, and in light of the recent Jason Aldean controversy, if you live in a town with a population under 50,000 and buy any of our models, we'll throw in a dozen bags of potatoes and a 10-gallon jug of cooking oil. We're calling it the Fry That in a Small Town Special. Hurry before supplies run out. So come down to Liberal Dan Chopper City and buy you a chopper today. Liberal Dan Chopper City is a fictional establishment, and according to my oldest son, French fries are a gift.
So that is the fourth installment in the Liberal Dan Chopper City commercials. And again, of course, Liberal Dan Chopper City. I don't know why those aren't coming through exactly well. It seems weird. I don't know. But maybe my thing isn't working as well. If you didn't hear it, I will upload that and Hypocrite of the Week after the show. Hey, Tammy, thank you for joining as well. Appreciate you. The thing about the Jason Aldean in a small town thing, basically the joke in there was that if you're from a small town and you buy one of the choppers from Liberal Dan Chopper City, you're going to get a dozen bags of potatoes and a 10-gallon jug of cooking oil, and we're calling that the Fry That in a Small Town special. So that's what the joke was. So the thing with Aldean is again, my point with Aldean is you have this issue of, he showed some video clips that weren't even from America, that they were from, there was like one from Germany, and it had nothing to do with America. There was one that was a picture that was from a clip, not clip art, but a staged picture that you could buy off the internet or whatever. It wasn't really anything that was real. And the thing from Germany wasn't necessarily even a protest, like not a Black Lives Matter protest or whatever. And of course, you know, he was talking about and showing, you know, the protests of like the Black Lives Matter protests, but he wasn't going to show anything about the January 6th insurrection, right? He wasn't going to show those, right? So that's my problem with that. Did he? I don't think he did. I haven't seen anything that he did. If he did, then I'll retract that. If you can email me and show me that, and show me where it is that he showed January 6th riots and that, and where he showed people storming the Capitol in the video, I'll absolutely make a retraction. I'll absolutely do that. Yeah, stock photo. Thank you, Tammy. I was looking for the word stock photo. Anywho, so hopefully the clips will play loud enough. I don't know why. Maybe this thing is just on its last leg. I don't know. Maybe it's kind of cheap. So maybe I need a better soundboard after all. But I don't. For some reason, I don't know if it's playing through that. I don't know what the deal is, because the volume is turned up, and I never used to have the problems with it before. If it's coming from the Blog Talk Radio, I don't know. But let me turn this up one smidge and let me see these clips. Because, see, here's something else that, before we get to the main topic of the show, that I do want to talk about, which is on Sunday, I uploaded a Fat Man rant, one of my Fat Man rants, and it had to do with the Florida educational guidelines that requires Florida teachers to teach that slavery could have taught the enslaved, life skills, and could have been a benefit to those folks who were enslaved, which is, of course, patently absurd. And so in that clip, this is the beginning of that clip from the Fat Man rant.
Florida History Standards, in its attempt to erase all the negatives from American history, now wants teachers to include how slavery benefited the enslaved people. Even if one was to twist and distort the truth into some bizarre way that makes it even remotely true, all that does is teach children that the ends justify the means, which is a horrible lesson, but obviously one conservatives would love to teach, because to politicians, that's conservatism 101. What's next? Are we going to teach kids that the Holocaust benefited us Jewish people?
And I said that tongue-in-cheek. That was supposed to be a joke. That was just supposed to be like, a snarky comment just to kind of mock the ridiculousness of the teaching of Florida students that slavery would give people some sort of benefit. However, Greg Gutfeld, on his show, this came up.
You have some good, and frankly, I'm just fundamentally uncomfortable with the sentence that blacks benefited at all from this. And, it made me think of someone, obviously I'm not black, but I'm Jewish. Would someone say about the Holocaust, for instance, that there were some benefits for Jews, right? While they were hanging out in concentration camps, you learned a strong work ethic, right? Maybe you learned a new skill.
Did you ever read Man's Search for Meaning? Vic Frankl talks about how you had to survive in a concentration camp by having skills. You had to be useful. Utility kept you alive.
So here she is, thinking the same thing I did. Not saying that all Jews were come to the same conclusion, but she had the same thought that I did. What's next? Are people going to think this? And then he goes, well, yeah, Jews had to learn how to be, have good, strong work ethic in order to survive. What? Are you freaking kidding me? No, they had to rely on what they already had in order to survive. That's not something that was good about the Holocaust. That was a condemnation of the Holocaust. That they had to do these things to survive, and they shouldn't have had to. And that's the point of this whole thing, of how ridiculous these Florida standards are. And these conservatives are just bending over backwards to defend this ridiculous policy. And it's just a damn shame that what I come up with as some sort of farcical, satirical mocking of a bad policy, they come out and use it as a defense of bad policy. They would be happy seeing that being introduced as well. It's just bizarre. And but the other thing about this is Hal Sparks was saying this earlier on his show about how he's right all the time, and he is. And I am too. And I'm frankly tired of being right so much. I wish I was wrong more often. I've said this before on the show. I wish I was wrong more often. I've been right so much about many things. I was right when I predicted that there would be 3 Supreme Court justices to be named. If Donald Trump got elected, he could name 3 Supreme Court justices. Everyone called me crazy. Everyone said that if Donald Trump got elected, that Roe v. Wade would be overturned. No, there's no way. That's the law of the land. There's no way Roe v. Wade would be overturned. We got Dobbs. That's what happened. So I'm flat out. What's even worse is, I'm right all the time, and while I have a great, wonderful audience, I still have a small audience. For as much as I'm right, my audience should be so much bigger by now, because I have predicted so many things correctly by this point. I should have gone viral with at least one of my things being right. I don't know. I haven't found that lightning in a bottle yet. But anyway, when I saw on the news today that Gutfeld actually made the Holocaust, agreed with a Holocaust comparison used to the Florida educational standards, my jaw dropped, and I was like, are you freaking kidding me? It was supposed to be a joke. It was supposed to be me making fun of the horrible policy, and he went ahead and proved me right anyway. He's a sick individual. Fox News is a bunch of sick individuals, and anybody who supports that crap are sick individuals too. Anywho, Liberal Dan is going to have to do the Occupy Wall Street to the People's microphone for his clips. I think that you need to be right all the time. You need to listen to me. I do on the Fat Man Rants have a little microphone that kind of hangs down. It's more behind me than in front of me, but there is a little microphone thing hanging down in the red for the Fat Man Rants thing. So let's back up a bit and see what I missed. Did you see the NBC story about the slave Bible, the video on YouTube? It's a disgrace. It's been a while. I've heard about it, I think, before. It's been a while. Gibson Media, IRS to shake down the middle class and poor using deadly force on less serious. That's not what those people are for, Gibson. It's not. It's not. Since George W. Bush was president, they've cut the enforcement agents in half, and not all of those new employees are going to be enforcement agents. Some of them are going to be like IT. Some of them are going to answer phones, and some of them are just replacing other people who are retiring. But the amount of enforcement that has been done on the wealthy has dropped by like 50%. Like audits of the wealthy have dropped by 50%. Wealthy people are getting away with not paying their taxes. It's the middle class who are being forced to pay their taxes and being punished for not paying their taxes. We don't have enough agents out there to do the to have enough investigatory power to go after the wealthy people who are cheating on their taxes. That's who needs to be investigated, and that's who will be investigated if we get those people hired. But y'all won't let it happen. And I don't understand why. I mean, I do understand why, because y'all are operating under the same ideas that the poor Southerners operated under when they fought for the South. I mean, most of them didn't own slaves. But they're like, well, one day I might own a slave, and therefore I need to fight for my right to one day own a slave, even though they would never do so. Even if they won the Civil War, they might one day they would have never owned a slave one day. They would have never reached that level to where they would have been able to buy a slave. But they thought one day it might happen, and if it might happen, I better be able to do it. I want to have that freedom I want to be able to know that if I get there, I can do it. So like a lot of these people are living in a trailer, living on food stamps, living on government assistance, living on Medicaid, living on welfare. But gosh darn it, they're going to vote against taxing the upper class, taxing the millionaires, taxing the billionaires. They're going to vote against these agents that are going to make sure that those upper class people pay their taxes. Why? Because gosh darn it, one of these days I'm going to hit that Powerball, and if I become a millionaire or a billionaire when I hit that Powerball, I don't want the government coming after me neither. Yeehaw! Wee doggy! And liberal day should have an audience that's at least as big as mine. Aren't we about the same? What's going on, Wes? It should be noted, Gibson Media said, it should be noted that the switch in statistical methods by agencies, including the FBI, has mostly benefited Democrats. I'm not exactly sure what that means, but okay. See, Real Bob was on Town Council. I love looking up all laws on the books. If you drive, you must have lanterns affixed to your carriage, but not just holding them. See, that's not what it is, Dan. It's wanting to feel like you're superior to someone. Well, that's the other part. See, that's the thing. That's what the rich people do to encourage the poor, to also encourage the poor people to support them. The rich people will be like, hey, you're at least at this level, so you're above them, so look down at them so you can't see us pissing on you. That's another part of it. But there is part of it of one day I might be in that level. So if I get to be in that level, I want to be able to do the same things they do as well. Even though economies of scale, never going to happen. Aquatic. One of the things that is where you can say the top 50% earners pay 97.7% of all taxes. That's but there's a lot of the bottom 50% of earners are get to the point where they're also earning the they might not pay taxes or they're getting stuff like the earned income tax credit, so they're getting more out of the system than back. And the problem is that it's not that they're paying, it's not the amount of taxes it's not the actual dollar figures or the dollar amounts that they're paying in taxes. What percentage are the top 5% paying? What percentage are the top 10% paying? That's the question that you need to ask. Because if I'm sitting there paying, a marginal rate of, 10, 15, 20% or whatever my top marginal rate is, I didn't look when I paid my tax to actually see what that top marginal rate was. I just went by what the tax table said, and I had to figure it out, and I had to do some things manually because H&R Block was stupid. But because they didn't have it in their system to do one last part that I needed to get done, and they wanted to charge me an extra $100 to do it, and I could do it by myself, so I did it by myself. So I don't know my top marginal percent off the top of my head, but there are people who make millions or billions of dollars who get away with paying a lower marginal rate than some of the people who are in the middle class, especially on things like capital gains, which is absolutely ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. Ooh, Trucker John had a message deleted by Jolie. You were a bad boy, Trucker John. Tisk tisk. Anywho, so let's now get into the constitutional things. So actually, I need to copy and paste this into something else because I need to talk about that later because it actually belongs later in the show. All right, so many conservatives who really claim to love things when they really don't. They love to talk about things that they really don't love. Ronald Reagan is one thing. We could all agree that many conservatives will love to talk about, and they love to talk about Ronald Reagan. They love to talk about how great Ronald Reagan was. Things were wonderful in the 80s. Reagan was one of the greatest presidents ever. Even maybe the Trump supporters, even the most extreme MAGA types might put Reagan at number 2 under Trump. Those who are not MAGA types might put Reagan at number 1. All of those people idolize Ronald Reagan. But, Ronald Reagan gave amnesty to like 12 million people who were here in violation of our border policies. Ronald Reagan and George W. Bush had a presidential debate where they both were back and forth talking about how it's not nice and it's cruel to treat people who just want to come here for a job, to treat them inhumanely, and all they want to do is come here looking for a job. And it's like they're sitting there sounding like two centrists. I'm not going to say they're sounding leftist or liberal, but they're at least sounding like two centrists who have some compassion for people. Like nothing like the people today as they talk about those who are crossing our borders. Like the Reagan that they have in their minds is a straw man Ronald Reagan. That's not the real Ronald Reagan. They have this fictional Ronald Reagan character in their head and they forget all of the things that he did that they just conveniently forget. Hell, there are religious conservatives who don't even know what their own Bible says. They'll say, the Bible says this, Jesus says that, whatever. Or they'll say that the Torah says this. If you're Jewish and you're a religious conservative and you're Jewish, they'll quote that and they'll do it wrong. Muslims, conservative Muslims will go against their own religious texts. There are many conservatives of all religious stripes who will do things in the name of their religion and act all conservative-like, but in reality, they're not doing things in the name of their religion. So it should be no surprise to anybody that these same people will claim to love the Constitution, but not even know what it says. And they'll claim to support a straw man version of the Constitution, either based off of, them either misremembering what it says or just not even knowing and just thinking they think it should say this, so they're going to go with it. Or maybe some pundit told them the Constitution says X, Y, and Z, but it really doesn't. For example, we've talked about Alito and the Ninth Amendment, and to remind everybody what the Ninth Amendment says, put it up on the screen. Amendment 9, the enumeration in the Constitution of certain rights shall not be construed to deny or disparage others retained by the people. I was having a conversation on some other website, I forget which. And the person was like, I'm a constitutionalist. And I think that this issue should be, and talking about abortion, should be left to the states because there's no mention of it in the Constitution. And I'm like, well, how can you be a constitutionalist if you're requiring rights to be enumerated in the Constitution when the Ninth Amendment clearly states that the enumeration in the Constitution of certain rights shall not be construed to deny or disparage others retained by the people? The Constitution is very explicit about the fact that it does not need to explicitly state that a certain thing is a right in order for it to be a right. Simple as that. There's no way around it. But yet, and I've been making this argument. I've been having this argument with conservatives for a very, very long time. Now, I'm not going to say that I've known the Constitution back and forth for all my life. You know, I probably could have been taught the Constitution better when I was in, middle school, high school, etc. But when I started really digging into politics and started really digging into the Constitution and digging into laws and stuff like that, and I, really started reading the Constitution, and I got to the Ninth Amendment, and I was like, these people are full of crap. These people are trying to tell you that, well, this isn't a right, that isn't why, because it's not in the Constitution. So what? If you were a true limited government conservative like you claimed you were, you wouldn't require a right to be in the Constitution. And if you read the Federalist Papers and the discussions about whether or not they should even have a Bill of Rights, the people that were against the Bill of Rights didn't want to enumerate the rights because they were afraid that people would make the exact same arguments like Alito made in Dobbs. Of course, the people that are the most likely to go and run to the Federalist Papers are the people that claim to be textualists. And if you're a textualist and you're running to the Federalist Papers, you're a hypocrite, because you can't be a textualist and then go justify your arguments by using the Federalist Papers, because the Federalist Papers are not in the Constitution and therefore not part of the text. But the reason they put the Ninth Amendment in there is so that people can't say, well, here's a list of the rights that we need to make sure that everybody knows that we have, but here's this amendment here that's supposed to be there to make sure that everybody knows that there are other rights that exist. But the argument, I think it was Madison. I could be wrong, but I think the argument that Madison was making, if he was the one that was making it, was that people should just inherently know that the rights that you have should be just naturally given rights, and that government shouldn't have any authority to stop you from doing what it is that you want to do as long as it's not harming anybody else. And that seems reasonable to me, except for the fact that conservatives love to make exceptions to that all day long and twice on Sundays. The Ninth Amendment tells us that the existence of a written constitution should not be treated as an excuse for ignoring non-textual rights, to assert the principle that enumerated rights are not exhaustive and final. I'm assuming you're missing an L. Right, exactly. So that you can't make the argument, like Alito did in Dobbs, that just because abortion isn't mentioned in the Constitution, it doesn't mean that it's not a right retained by the people. The argument, he made that argument many times in his Dobbs decision, in the majority opinion, and he was wrong, because he was completely misrepresenting the Constitution, because he even mentioned the Ninth Amendment, and if I recall that correctly, yet he still ignored it. See, Wes, they try to limit the wordage and make it readable to the ages, plain speech, no slang. We all know I mean, yeah, they tried to limit it and make it readable to all ages, except they didn't do that with the Second Amendment. They didn't make that readable. The wording in the Second Amendment is terrible. If I was gonna write, if I was an English teacher grading the Second Amendment, I would fail the person that wrote it. Silly Wonka. Alito is an angry old fart. Yeah, Alito is basically a Scalia wannabe, except if Scalia had like 3/4 of his brain removed. Because Scalia, for as much as I disagreed with him, was a genius. He just was an evil genius most of the time. His writings were much better than Alito's ever were. And as, you know, we recall, thank you, Aaron, for supporting this, for showing the link to the Buy Me a Coffee. Thank you. You could also do a Venmo. You could also subscribe to the show if you haven't subscribed yet. So Gibson Media, the Ninth Amendment was designed in part to clear out the ambiguity surrounding rights that went unaddressed. Unfortunately, it didn't work because you have people like Alito who ignored it in Dobbs, and may have many other conservative politicians who ignore it all the damn time. And I've called the Ninth Amendment the red-headed stepchild of the amendments to the Constitution because it's the one that conservatives love to just ignore completely. Hey, Vincent, thanks for joining. But the 10th Amendment argument, 10th Amendment is one that I've more recently, I've still had this argument for a while with the 10th Amendment, but those arguments, comparatively speaking, have been more recent. Now, I've still been having them for years, but they've been fewer years than the years that I've been having the Ninth Amendment arguments. The 10th Amendment is the powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited to the states, are reserved to the states respectively, or to the people. So what does that mean? If the federal government has the authority, is given the authority by the Constitution, or if the states are not prohibited from having those powers, then the states or the people are the ones that have the powers. This is what conservatives will colloquially call states' rights. Now, I don't like the term states' rights. Why? Because the 10th Amendment, powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution nor prohibited by it to the states are reserved to the states respectively or the people, never mentions the word rights. There is not one mention of the word right in there at all. Why? Because I'm assuming that the founders understood this basic principle that there are powers and there are rights, and never the twain shall meet. Powers are one thing, rights are another thing. Rights are things that people have and not government. Powers are things that government has and sometimes people have too. Rights and powers should not be conflated. And whenever a conservative conflates powers with rights, that bothers me, because that also seems to fly in the face of what conservatism is supposed to be about. At least what they say. They supposedly seem to suggest that conservatism is about less government, more, individual control over your lives. Now, we all know that in reality, it's many conservatives are about less control over my life, more control over your lives, because they want to control everybody else's lives. They just don't want government controlling their lives. But again, there's no such thing as a state right. States don't have rights, states have powers, people have rights. But here's why I'm bringing this up, especially this week. Governor Abbott, which always makes me want to do the line from Men in Tights, whenever they announce the Abbott or whatever, and the guy goes, "Hey, Abbott!" I hate that guy. Anyway, Governor Abbott in Texas put up this floating border wall berm thing in the Rio Grande, right? So he erects this thing in the river. And because he feels that he has the right or the authority, he feels that he has the authority. I mean, he would call it the right, but he feels that he has the authority to protect the border between Texas and Mexico from the people who are crossing the border who he feels in violation of our immigration policies. Now, it is legal to cross the border, touch land, and declare asylum. That's legal. A. B. He does not have the authority to do anything in controlling naturalization or immigration. Why? Because the Constitution grants Congress the authority control over the border. Congress has the authority to set the laws on immigration and naturalization. So if Congress has that authority enumerated to them, then according to the 10th Amendment, it is not a power that the states get. So therefore, Abbott has no authority whatsoever to do anything about illegal immigration, as he would call it. He can't do anything to stop people from crossing the river and putting a foot on Texas soil and declaring asylum or requesting asylum. Nothing. He has no authority to do so. Now, some conservatives will point to, I think, part of one of the articles, I forget the exact article and section, that does state that, I guess, if there is an invasion, like if another country is attacking us, and the U.S. Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, or whatever are not there at the time, that I believe the Texas or any state governor can deploy the National Guard and can act to defend the state from foreign enemy, repel foreign enemies, right? So that's fine, but that's not what's happening here. But that's why they're trying to call the people who are coming across the border an invasion. If you've heard them calling it an invasion, that's why they're doing it. They're not just doing it because they want to have scare tactics. They're not just doing it because they want to make all of the people crossing the border look like, you know, big, bad, evil brown people. I mean, that's part of it. But that's not the only reason why they're calling it an invasion, because they then want to justify the use of force to repel the people that are crossing the border, because by them wrongly calling it an invasion, they can then say, oh, well, we're being attacked, therefore we have the right to defend ourselves. We have the authority to defend ourselves. They would say the right to defend ourselves. They have the authority to defend themselves under the Constitution, but it's not an invasion. It's not an attack by another country. It's people crossing the border. They're not crossing the border. You know, if somebody was crossing the border with guns and trying to attack the citizens of Texas, yes, the Texas National Guard and Texas Police and any law enforcement agency in Texas, before any sort of federal, before any, army, military, whatever could get down there, yes, they could absolutely go and deal with such people. If there was like a drug cartel or some other militia that was coming across from Mexico and trying to invade a town and seize a town or something, absolutely. Governor Abbott could absolutely take action to stop such an event. No question from me in that thing. Because he would have a duty, not just the authority, but the duty to protect his own citizens from people committing violence. And it doesn't matter if the people committing violence are people coming from across from Mexico or people who already live in Texas or what have you, right? But that's not what's happening. He's just trying to stop people from crossing a river. That's not what the Constitution grants him the authority to do. What this is a matter of immigration and naturalization and border policy. Because of that, That is something that Congress has the authority to make laws about. That is something that the federal government has the power over when it comes to enforcement. As such, no state government has the authority to do anything about. Nothing. So that's when you hear about things like, oh, it's a sanctuary city. It's a sanctuary city. This is a sanctuary. They're making sanctuary cities, and there's no such thing as a sanctuary city. No city has the authority to do anything about immigration. Nothing. They have no authority to act. It's the responsibility of the federal government. They're the only ones with the authority to do anything. They could ask. They could say, hey, we believe this person is somebody who is here in violation of our border policy. We'd like to investigate it because you have them in prison for something otherwise. And then, sure, they could cooperate if they want to. And then if they're not willing to cooperate, they could get, the courts involved. And the court can be like, okay, well, we feel like this person needs to be yeeted because they're in violation of border policy and they're going to be deported. So that we're going to deport them, blah, 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 whatever. But local governments don't have the authority as well to do anything about to do anything about immigration. Illegal immigration, crossing the border in violation of border policies, coming across to declare asylum, whatever it is. There's no rights. There's no rights there. Oh, we have a caller. Hold on. Demonics. Yeah, sanctuary. I mean, places will call themselves sanctuary cities, and places will, but in reality, there's no such thing, and because no city has the authority to do anything about immigration. That's my point. No pinching Aaron. Got it. Once we get to the end of this segment, maybe I'll have to sing Aaron her birthday song. See, the state of Texas, as a sovereign political entity, has the inherent authority to enforce its own borders and protect the citizen. Nope. Let's see. Let's bring up Article 4. He wants to bring it up. Article 4 Constitution. Boo, 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 boo. Full faith and credit should be given to each state, blah, blah, blah. Congress shall general laws prescribe the manner in which such acts, factors, proceedings are approved. Citizens of each state shall be entitled to all privileges and immunities of citizens of several states. Person charged in any state with treason, felony, blah, 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 blah. New states may be admitted. Congress shall have full power. The United States shall guarantee to every state in its union republican form of government shall protect them from against invasion and an application of legislator or the executive against domestic violence. There's nothing in there that I'm seeing. You can copy and paste the words in if you want to, but I don't see anything in Article 4 that says that that any governor of any state government has the authority to act and take action as the governor of Texas has done. So I don't believe Article 4 says what you think it says. It's Erin's birthday. She get another year hotter. LOL. Okay, let's go to the caller. Hey, caller, what's going on?
Yes, sir.
Yes, how's it going?
Hello?
Yes, can you hear me? Hello?
I can't hear you.
Can't hear me. Oh, well, let's put you back on mute again. I don't know what the problem is. So, people in the audience can hear me, so I don't know what's going on with why he couldn't hear me. I don't know if it's a Blog Talk Radio thing or what. We'll try and maybe it's a mute issue. Maybe he had me on mute. I don't know. We will try and do the, hey, TV2, what's going on? So, or maybe it's just another weird thing with the, with my setup. I don't know. What is DeSantis needing a private army in Florida? Because he wants to control elections, right? And see, here's the other thing. Mexico is claiming, and I don't know what the treaties are, Mexico is claiming that by building those berms or whatever they are in the water, as creating a border in the Rio Grande, that that Abbott is violating several treaties. Well, can't violate a treaty neither. Treaties have the authority of law. So you can't violate the federal law. So if treaties have the effect of law, then you can't violate the law, right? If supremacy clause and all. So Governor Abbott needs to take a step back. And I don't know why Governor Abbott, well, I do know why, because he's a conservative who doesn't understand the Constitution. Governor Abbott needs to listen to Liberal Dan Radio, talk from the left, that's right. Again, Liberal Dan Radio, talk from the left, that's right. Wednesdays, 8 p.m. Central. Now, again, if we do get to 1,000 subscribers, I will be going to 2 days a week. I'm toying around with what I might do on that second day. On Mondays, I'm thinking of creating a new video series. I have a lot of things on the back burner, but I've really been getting a lot of these red pill, MGTOW, men going their own way, men's rights activists videos coming across my streams recently, and I have been wanting to do some reaction videos to some of those anyway. So I'm thinking that I might do like MGTOW Mondays or men's rights Mondays, but then switch it to make it like, anti-MRA folks and going against those people. And a lot of these like red pill stuff that I'm getting is this one particular woman who is really trying to be a pick-me. Like she's like, oh, have they picked you yet, sis? Because come on. But some of these people are talking about some really interesting stuff. And some of the stuff that they're talking about almost makes me want to save it for the Liberal Dan After Dark idea. Because some of them are going into some really deep conversations or whatever. But anyway, again, with the show reset, Liberal Dan Radio, talk from life, that's right. Wednesdays, 8 p.m. Central. When I get to 1,000 subscribers, it'll be Mondays at 8 p.m. Central as well. Trying to push that out, trying to reach that goal, trying to push out as many videos as I can to get that going. I think it might be just like I might just do more reaction videos on Monday, but maybe different types of reaction videos than what Hal does. Again, if you want to support the show, subscribe, share videos, like videos, comment on videos. I think sharing and liking and commenting on videos is probably some of the best things you could do, because that's going to help the algorithms. Getting your friends to subscribe as well. Those are going to be all the good things that you need to do as well. My voice stream is choppy. Is anybody else hearing me choppily? And if you also want to support the show, there's the Venmo, there's Buy Me a Cider, there is the Liberty Dan Radio Patron. Gibson, U.S. Constitution does not grant the federal government the exclusive authority to divorce immigration policy. Yes, it does. It does give the U.S. government the authority to enforce immigration policy, because the states only inherit the powers that are not given to the federal government. 10th Amendment. The powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited by it to the states, are reserved to the states respectively to the people. The 10th Amendment is clear. If the power is given to the federal government, it is not given to the states. The 10th Amendment clearly makes any power given to the federal government exclusive to the federal government. So you have just made a completely false statement, which is why I made this show. Because conservatives clearly need an introduction or a reintroduction to the Constitution. Because the 10th Amendment, the one y'all talk about the most, even though y'all misrepresent it by calling it states' rights, clearly states that if it's not a power that's given to the federal government, the states get it. Meaning, conversely, if it is a power granted to the federal government of the United States, they don't get it. nor do they get it if they're denied it. Gives a media. It seems to be entirely appropriate when a state uses the federal law as the criterion for the exercise of its own power, and that doesn't seem reasonable to me at all. It does not seem reasonable to me at all for a state to use as an excuse a federal law to take action. A state can't enforce federal law. Only the federal government can enforce federal law. Simple as that. What else did I miss? Wait, Antonin Scalia said that? Wow. Maybe I take back my view on Antonin Scalia. Crap. Or maybe Scalia was just raw. I disagree with Antonin Scalia on a lot. Let me restate that again. I believe Scalia was smart. He was a genius. I didn't say, but I do disagree with him a lot of the time. Let me just restate that a lot as well. Agoff, we are a constitutional federal republic. In fact, federal powers beat state ones. Ask Abraham Lincoln. Well, you can't because John Wilkes Booth shot him. So let's see what else. But there are other rights. And we could go back to Texas if we wanted to. We could talk about other states in the 10th Amendment. We could talk about the 10th Amendment, the 9th Amendment, if you want to continue talking about the 10th Amendment and the 9th Amendment. But there are other states. There are other examples of amendments that conservatives just don't understand. Second Amendment. They talk about gun rights. There are plenty of conservatives who love the idea of constitutional carry. What's constitutional carry? The idea that you don't need anything. That you shouldn't need a piece of paper. That you shouldn't need any sort of documentation to carry a gun with you. That you should just be able to carry a pistol right with you and that's it. Strap it on you. Only paper you need to carry a gun is the Constitution. That's it. Right? That's Gibson Media can who is probably the one who in chat is most likely to agree with constitutional carry. I don't know if he does or not, but Gibson Media is the one who's probably most likely to agree with constitutional carry. But problem is that many of the same people who support constitutional carry had no problem with stop and frisk laws. Yes, it also says well-regulated. Yes. And they'll argue about what the meaning of is. They'll argue about what the meaning of well-regulated is. They'll say, oh, they meant like the regulars, like the whatever, and not actual regulations over the militia itself. That's what they'll argue, or something. I know what I would say what it means, but I will say that law-abiding citizens should be able to own a gun if they so choose to, but that doesn't mean that there can't be reasonable gun regulations on the books. I also believe that states don't have the authority to do any gun regulations. Why? Because it's something that's given to the federal government from the Second Amendment. If the Constitution mentions that it's a well-regulated militia mentioned by the Constitution, that should be the Constitution is mentioning it. I think it's an authority that's given to the federal government. The federal government should be the ones that's passing uniform gun regulations and not the states. Because I don't think you should, since it is a federally protected constitutional right, I don't think the state should be able to pass regulations on guns. I think it should only be coming from the federal level. I don't think you should have any difference between Florida and New York, Texas and Maryland, Louisiana and California. It should be one uniform policy. You shouldn't have the situation where, for example, there was a soldier, veteran, who brought his pistol, I think, from Virginia to New York City. And he thought he was doing the responsible thing by taking his firearm, locking it in a case, and checking it into the building where he was staying at. And they arrested him for it, because it was still a violation of New York law for having the gun on him without the proper permitting or whatever. Now, I don't know about you, but I think that if anybody should have the ability to be walking around with a gun, it should be if it's somebody who is a veteran of the military, who if you've been honorably discharged and you don't have any psych issues, like you're not suffering from PTSD or anything, and you know you're in good standing, there's no issues with your service record or what have you, I don't think there should be an issue there of you being able to carry around your gun, because you've been trained on how to properly use it, I would hope, on the proper some of the best criticisms that I've heard on the unlawful use of police force and deadly force by police officers have been by members of the military who have said, when we're serving our country, we are taught when to use deadly force and when not to use deadly force, and these people clearly were not properly trained on when to use deadly force because they clearly used deadly force far too soon. So in that one case of that person in New York City who was arrested for simply turning in his gun to the management of the building while he was in the building, it was ridiculous that he was arrested. I think eventually, I think he got his gun back and I think they dropped the charges, but he shouldn't have been arrested at all. It was ridiculous. Gun regulations should be coming from the federal level, not from the state level. They should be uniform. So there's that. But again, many of these people, I'm not saying all of the people who support constitutional carry support stop and frisk, but many of the people who I've heard support constitutional carry also support stop and frisk, and that's hypocrisy. Because if you support the ability to walk around and carry a gun, and the only paper that you believe that you should need to walk around and carry a gun is the Constitution and the Second Amendment, and that should apply to everybody, not just white people. That should apply to every single person in the country. You shouldn't be able to walk around and stop and frisk people just because they're black and brown to determine whether or not they have a firearm on them and then seize their firearm. Simple as that. At least I think it should be as simple as that. Boo, 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 boo. Let's scroll back up. Vincent Owen says, good point. Thank you. Stop and frisk laws are affected other than, of course. Well, it's part of the conservative hypocrisy. As the host with the most Nimbus Yosh with the smooth sounds of the Percy podcast will say, hypocrisy is a conservative prerequisite. Let me scroll back and see what I've missed. Who needs an abortion in Texas when you can go to the river and Abbott will give you a miscarriage for free? I'm beyond pissed and sick. And yeah, me too. What about the advances in technology the founders couldn't dream of? There are a lot of things I would love to ask the founders. Like, I would love to get Thomas Jefferson. Get him on his deathbed. Right on his deathbed. If he's alone, right before he's about to die. Yank him into the future real quick. Keep him alive. Have some sort of technology where you could keep him alive for as long as you needed to. And then ask him all the questions you could want to ask him. And then send him right back and then have him pass away so that nobody knows any different. So that it doesn't change any history. Nobody knows that he's gone. To the eyes of any observer, he would have still been in the same bed for whatever, Bill and Ted the thing, because, as long as you put him back at the same time where he was, or do the whole returning of the time stone thing like they did at the end of Avengers Endgame, where you're returning the time stone so you don't change the history. Ask him all the questions. Ask him about, how do you feel about the fact that, the type of government that you created, where Rhode Island was the size of the population of Rhode Island as you calculated population at the creation of the Constitution, and compared to the population of Virginia, the Virginia population, when you count the black population as 3/5 of a person, works out to be 11 times more than the population of Rhode Island. So therefore, Virginia has 11 times the population of Rhode Island, and that's the difference. But in our modern era, you have California, which has like 55 times the population, or more even. I think it's like 70 times the population. But we haven't reapportioned it. We haven't changed the number of seats, so they only have 50 times the number of seats. But yet they still have the same number of Senate seats. Do you think that that's adequate, or would you have redone it had you known that states would have had such vast differences in population? Could you have imagined a state with such vast differences in populations as we have today? Could you imagine guns that weren't muskets that you had to load a single ball in and push a bunch of powder in beforehand and then spark it and then spend time reloading? Could you imagine, instead of doing that, where you just clip in a magazine and then fire off 100 rounds? Done. Kill a bunch of people. Can you imagine that? And then would you have redone the Second Amendment if those things would have been available? Yes or no? Would it be lovely to be able to have those questions answered. But, probably will never happen. I'm getting rid of Holocaust federal court. The ADA is being violated across the country. Veterans are being landlocked by local zoning statutes in violation of the federal laws. Bill, would you like to do a show on that? I don't know if you would be able to, if your lawyer would be amenable to doing a show on that, but I would love to do a show on that with you if you want to do a show on that, because that sounds interesting. At least email me if you're able to. Email me at liberaldanradio@gmail.com and let me know more details about that. That would be interesting. Aquatic, are you sure that Stats is right? Because I think if you're looking at because Chicago's not the top gun violence city. It's like, I think it's Louisville or something if you look at per capita. Gibson Media, what is the only functions of the federal government? What is the only function? There's plenty of functions of the federal government. I don't know if there's only functions that I could state. I don't know what your point with that one is. So you might want to say, the functions of government should be to protect people and entities from other people and entities. So, that's the basic core principle of government in my mind. Bicycle Mike, I like big, busty goth girls. Well, who doesn't? Silly Wonka, F the founders, I was left out of the Second Amendment. Well, there's that too. There's the idea of, do we really want to listen? I would just like to hear the opinion of the founders, just to be able to shut them up, to shut the people up who always want to cite the founders. Of course, the people who want to cite what the founders say, i.e. the people who cite the Federalist Papers, are the same people who claim to be textualists most of the time. You can't be a textualist and then cite the founders. You can only be a textualist and cite the Constitution and the laws. Can't have it both ways. You can't be a textualist and then cite anything else but the text. If you're a textualist, you're not a fan of black lipstick. Wes, I challenge you to go look up the wrestler Rhea Ripley. Let me know what you think and come back. well, you don't have to do it now, but at some point, let me know. You might make an exception for Rhea Ripley. That might be more for my Nerdy Dan stuff, but Rhea Ripley, look her up. She is an amazing wrestler, very talented, very strong, and oof. All right. So while Gibson Media is writing that stuff out, we'll get to it in a second. The 14th Amendment is another one that conservatives seem to not like. Yes, the wrestler, Rhea Ripley. R-H-E-A-R-I-P-L-E-Y. Rhea Ripley. Matt Gaetz is somebody else who doesn't quite understand. Not Rhea Ripley, not Rhea. R-H-E-A. Rhea. Like Rhea Perlman. Anyway. All right, well, how about I put on black lipstick then, Wes, and see what you think. I just think she looks good with black lipstick on. I mean, I don't know. Anywho, so Matt Gaetz. Today, U.S. Congressman Matt Gaetz, Florida 01, introduced the End Birthright Citizenship Fraud Act of 2023 in the U.S. House of Representatives to end unqualified birthright citizenship ahead of questioning Department of Homeland Security Alejandro Mayorkas in front of the House Judiciary Committee tomorrow, July 26th, I guess today. 2023 legislation would amend the Immigration Nationality Act to reflect the original intent of the 14th Amendment's subject to the jurisdiction thereof clause. If passed, the legislation would deny automatic citizenship. So, full text of Congressman Gaetz' bill can be found here. So here we go. Let's do a little zoomy. Go to the alternate page. Let's just get out of the buy me a coffee one for a second. This is really not as this is too big that I want it. Hold on. This is being really weird. There we go. That's much better. Okay. Here is Matt Gaetz's little bill. The Constitution is older than 15 years. Matt Gaetz has no interest in it. There you go, Deminox. I'm mad. I'm mad at that comment. I'm mad that I didn't think of it first. Southern states were coerced into accepting the amendment, and without this coercion, there would not have been enough states to ratify the Amendment 14. I just don't buy that. I know you disagree, but if anybody's calling right now, I can't see the call screen because I have this over it right now. So, a bill to amend whatever. This is going to get into Dobbs v. Jackson. I think it was Dobbs v. Jackson. Alito levels of idiocy when it comes to what is cited, to what laws are cited to justify this law. Although it's a law, not a ruling, but still, oi. I did read a little bit of this beforehand, so I did do a little bit of prep on this one before we went through it. Purpose of this act is to recognize the principle of limited jus soli conveyed by the 14th Amendment and codified into the Immigration Nationality Act through the statement subject to the jurisdiction thereof, and reform the United States immigration law to be consistent with the statement's original meaning by denying automatic citizenship at birth to children born in the United States to parents who are not United States nationals, aliens admitted lawfully to the United States as refugees, aliens lawfully admitted for permanent residence, or aliens performing active service in the United States Armed Forces. Findings. Congress finds the following. No, it doesn't. Just Matt Gaetz finds the following. Naturalization is an exclusive power of Congress. Ha ha! At least Matt Gaetz agrees there. At least Matt Gaetz agrees with me here. Stop clocks are right twice a day. Naturalization is an exclusive power of Congress as stated in Article 1, Section 8, Clause 4 of the Constitution. Congress should have the power to establish a uniform rule of naturalization. i.e., it's not a power retained by, it's not a power that the states have. Boom. Aww. Aaron, I love you, Demonox. Demonox and Aaron swoon. Can you feel the love tonight? Love tonight. Sorry. Birthday song in a bit. Hold on. The phrase, subject to the jurisdiction thereof, as stated in the Immigration and Nationality Act, references the same statement found in Section 1 of the 14th Amendment and carries the same meaning. The phrase, subject to the jurisdiction of thereof, is a legal term of art. A term of art. Huh? Derived from the concepts related to a limited jus soli. I'm surprised he even knows what the hell that means. And understood by the drafters of the 14th Amendment to have its basis in English common law, which in turn has its basis in Roman law. We're going back to the Roman law. We're going back to the Roman Emperor. Not just the Holy Roman Empire, folks. We're going back to the Roman Empire to justify our laws now, people. Bartolus de Saxiferato, a 14th century Italian, and he probably says Italian, and one of the first legal scholars to study the concept of acquisition of citizenship, civilitas civilitis, as deduced from the Corpus Juris Civilis, determined that Roman citizen by birth, civis ab origine, was one who had been born within the territory of the state, and to at least one parent who was already a citizen of the state. In the earliest known case to articulate jus soli in England, Calvin v. Smith, Calvin's case, it was agreed that the statuses of subject and alien were determined by whether a person was born owing allegiance to the sovereign, as indicated by the Latin phrase ad fidem regis. We don't have no sovereign. We didn't fight no war in 1776 to worry about no sovereigns. I don't know why Matt Gaetz is worried about no sovereign. We fought a war in 1776 to not have to worry about no sovereigns anymore. I don't know how he's worried about Regis or Kathy Lee for that matter. Sir Edward Coke, one of the judges deciding in the Calvin case, extrapolated one exception to jus soli, writing, "But if enemies should come into any of the king's dominions," is that like in Virginia? "And surprise any castle or fort, and possess the same by hostility, and have issue there," what kind of issue? Like, and have an issue like a fight or a quarrel, or have an issue like... There, that issue is no subject to the king, though he be born within his dominions. I guess it is issue. Ugh. For that he was not born under the king's allegiance or obedience. But the time of his birth of the essence of a subject born, for he cannot be a subject to the king or England. I didn't have no king, I didn't vote for him. Unless at the time of his birth he was under the allegiance and obedience of the king. Whether the person or at birth or is under the allegiance or obedience to the sovereign is not determined by whether his... We don't have sovereigns, Gates. Again, we didn't fight no war in 1776 to have to worry about no legions or obedience to no sovereign or anything. Is the subject of the territorial jurisdiction or prosecution, as any foreign enemy, marauder, or bandit would be the subject of the law of land and then captured, but instead whether as parent or president. Now, if anybody is captured in this country, they're subject to our laws. I mean, yeah. Whether his parent is present in territory lawfully and permanently, not only voluntarily availing himself to jurisdiction thereof, but doing so with the consent of the sovereign. I mean, if somebody's here and declares that they're here to be, they're seeking, whatchamacallit, whatever, they would be here with the consent of the people who are ruling, right, or people who are in charge. Senator Howard, when proposing language to be included in the 14th Amendment and making reference to English common law exceptions, clarified his intent that citizenship should not be conveyed to everyone born or present in the United States when he stated, this will not, of course, include persons born in the United States who are foreigners, aliens who belong to the families of ambassadors or foreign ministers accredited to the government of the United States, but will include every other class of person. Well, yeah, it's not going to include the people who are, you know, belong to families of ambassadors or foreign ministers, right? I mean, that's clearly not gonna take place. Clearly, those people don't count. Clearly, but then that was when the, but that's not. But we're talking about other people. Senator Lyman Trumbull, a key figure in the adoption of the 14th Amendment, said the subject to the jurisdiction of the United States meant not owing allegiance to any other country. Okay, so if they're coming here and they want to owe allegiance to us, and if they've given up their allegiance to the other country, then what's that then? If they've left their other country for us, owing allegiance to the United States and being subject to its complete jurisdiction means not being subject to any foreign power. So if you're subject to our jurisdiction, you're in our lands. So if you commit a crime in the United States and you're going to be subject to our jurisdiction unless you're here like under some diplomatic immunity. That's what that means, dummy. It doesn't exclude, as he says, only those temporary present in the country, whether lawfully or unlawfully. The 14th Amendment framers intended to give citizenship only to those who owed their allegiance to the United States and were subject to its complete jurisdiction, primarily the newly freed slaves who were lawful permanent residents. I mean, no, but okay, go on. Yes, it was intended to allow for those people to, you know, who were newly freed slaves to become permanent residents, but it also included other people as well. Otherwise, it would have just said anybody who was formerly a slave who is now free is now a citizen. But they didn't say just that. They worded it differently with meanings, and words have meanings, and you're supposed to be textualists. So if you're a textualist, you can't be going by what Senator Lynn Trumbull said in whatever he said, or what Senator Howard said in whatever he wrote what he said. You have to go by the text, you hypocrites. The 1866 Civil Rights Act further clarified that the 14th Amendment didn't apply to temporary visitors who remained the citizen or subject of a parent's home country when it stated, all persons born and naturalized in the United States and not subject to any power, excluding Indians not taxed, are hereby declared to be citizens of the United States. Okay, but that's not the Constitution. That's something else. So, again, the law can't overturn the Constitution. This is just extending citizenship to other people, not what the Constitution extends citizenship to. But we should all understand that Matt Gaetz is not a brain surgeon. I mean, he hangs out with MTG and Bobo the Clown. American Indians and their children did not become citizens until Congress passed the Indian Citizens Act in 1924, which would have been redundant for the 14th Amendment extended citizenship to every person born in the United States no matter what. Well, unless you consider the fact that perhaps those tribal nation areas were perhaps their own little sovereign areas and not part of the United States in and of itself, and there was questions about that, and if there are legal questions about that, then maybe you wanted to clarify that, and if you wanted to clarify that, you made that in the law. Maybe, since the inception of the 14th Amendment, the Supreme Court has never interpreted the 14th Amendment to extend birthright citizenship to the children of any class of individuals who are not citizens themselves or lawful permanent residents, but that doesn't mean that it's still not true. Congressional intent and understanding of its ability to legislate naturalization with the original public meaning of the 14th Amendment is clear and apparent by evidence by legislation. Okay, but still, that still doesn't mean that what you say it means. And again, if you're a textualist, you have to go by the text and not what the other people said about the text. The current concept of unqualified birthright citizenship is inconsistent with the history meaning of the 14th Amendment. No, it's not. It's consistent with the text of the 14th Amendment, and we don't interpret our laws based off. We shouldn't be interpreting our laws based off of who owed allegiance to what king in the 18th century or 17th century or the 16th century, or what some Roman said in the 12th century or what have you. You might feel that it's been granted too broadly in recent decades, but I don't care what you believe, because you believe other things too that we're not going to talk about right now. See you later, Demonox. Sorry you had to leave so early. The United States is one of those two developed nations that currently grants automatic citizenship so expansively to children born within its borders. So what? you're now appealing to the majority. That is not a logical thing to do, as a logical fallacy. Unqualified birthright citizenship provides a strong incentive for illegal immigrants to cross the southern border of the United States. Why wouldn't it give illegal immigrants to cross the northern border? Why is the southern border so special? A family can return to their home country, and 21 years later, the family return as part of a chain migration, not subject to blah, 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 blah. That's just more paranoia about, the brown people crossing the border because, Matt Gaetz is a Republican, and Republicans are afraid of brown people. Illegal immigrants who cross into the United States to give birth often return to Mexico, sending their children across the border daily to attend American public schools, crowding out America's boo. It's just bigoted ridiculousness. Apprehensions of persons attempting to enter the United States illegally at the southern border of the United States surpassed 2.3 million in fiscal year 2022 and has been increasing perpetually. So wait, Matt Gaetz is saying that Joe Biden has apprehended 2.3 million folks, so he's catching them. He's apprehending them. So he's doing his job, right? So Matt Gaetz is saying that Biden is doing his job at the border? Look at that. And it's been increasing steadily since 1980. Who was president in 1981? Reagan. So I guess it's been increasing since Reagan, the hero. Again, as I said, they have the straw man of Reagan. I said that earlier in the show, which comes right back full circle. They love Reagan until they actually have to deal with who Reagan really was. Millions of illegal immigrants have at least one child who is deemed a citizen under the erroneous interpretation of the 14th Amendment. Estimates show that most children of unauthorized immigrants are citizens by birth, and the number has been increasing exponentially since 2000. Exponentially? I question his numbers. Unqualified birthright citizenship has enabled an entire black market. Estimates show that birth tourism results in 33,000 births to women on tourist visas annually. That's not exponential growth if it's 33,000 annually. That's linear. That's just a linear. That's no growth if it's 33,000 everyone. Hundreds of thousands are born to mothers who are illegal aliens, or as he's wording it. And again, I'm using the terms that he's using in the text. I don't refer to people who are undocumented immigrants that way, who are present on temporary visas, many of whom are misrepresented the purpose of the trip to avoid scrutiny. The birth tourism industry is rampant in the United States territories, with more annual births to foreign visitors than native residents in the Commonwealth of North Marinas Islands. What? That's a random area to pick? Like, what? What? The Government Accountability Office has found a fiscal impact of providing public benefits to illegal aliens. That they're eligible to receive emergency Medicaid. Cost data are not readily available because they're not required to reveal their eligibility. Total cost providing benefits to are unknown. The estimated cost of AFTC is $479 million for 92. 5 states that account for 80% of the illegal immigrant population provided most benefits totaling $2.9 billion. Clarification of birthright citizenship. Section 101 of Immigration Nationality Act is amended by adding the end of the following purposes of 301A. Term subject to the jurisdiction of means with respect to a person born in the United States. That person was born to a parent who is at the time of the person's birth a national of the United States, a refugee, an alien lawfully admitted for permanent residence, or an alien performing active service in the armed services. Effective date. The amendments made by this act shall apply to a person who is born after the date, whatever, blah, 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 blah. And guess where this is going to go? Absolutely nowhere. Why will it go absolutely nowhere? Because it won't pass the Senate. And there you go. So, but it's more ridiculousness by Pizzagates. So let's see. Vincent Owens, if I only had a brain. If you find a place where the statistics match the argument you're making. Nice. Let's see. Gives some media 14th amendments are subject to the federal various amendments rights granted by federal government, whereas the organic sovereigns not subject to federal. Who told all the world refugees the southern border was open? The same people hiding razor wire underwater in the Rio Grande refugees. What? We care about this because the citizen is somebody living there. Imagine that. Neo-fascist cite Roman law and his illegal argument. Exactly. I understand why aquatic. Your message was message because I don't like the LT word aquatic. So I appreciate the fact that your comment was deleted. Oh wait. I don't understand how so many people in chat can just want to tease people. How would y'all feel if people were in here saying LT and everything else under the sun? If you would have not said the LT word, then yeah, maybe. I don't know who is teasing. I'm not sure. I mean, people do give Gibson Media a little bit of a ribbing because he can give some ideas that are a little bit out there in the minds of some folks. But, I mean, Gibson Media has also provided some good call-in back and forths. All right, let's go back to here. Okay, no calls at the moment. Anyway. I'm on the phone with my attorney right now. He said that he will try to work your show in when he gets a break in the action. Okay. I mean, it doesn't have to be tonight. I mean, I'm probably not ready for it tonight, but at some point in the next, few weeks, I'd be more than happy to have y'all on to discuss what's going on if you're able to do so. If you're not able to do so because you don't want to talk about the specifics of the case, then absolutely, I understand that. But I'm more than happy to talk about it if you want to talk about it. So, anyway, so Aaron, are you still here? I would think you're still here, but I want to catch you before you leave. I do need to play, let's see, I've done Chopper City, I did the Hypocrite of the Week, I've done the other clips. This is a twofer this week for Words of Redneck Wisdom. Some people, I guess, had problems hearing some of the audio this week, but, so we'll go ahead and see and hopefully play it. I'll try and upload everything anyway to YouTube after the show to be visible. Okay, before I play Words of Redneck Wisdom. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Aaron. Happy birthday to you. And many more. Or should I have gone lower? I can do the, the Stevie Wonder version, the Happy birthday to ya. Happy birthday to ya. Happy birthday to you. Or, what's, da-na-na-na-na-na, they say it's your birthday! Da-na-na-na-na. But it's not my birthday too yet, so I can't really sing that song, right? I can't really sing the Beatles song. There's the Weird Al version, the Happy Birthday! Happy birthday to you! It's one of the Weird Al songs that I don't know well, so... Rap it. Do I need to go freestyle and make an Aaron rap? Or I need to go freestyle with an Aaron rap, but a freestyle Aaron rap is gonna have to come with the Aaron horn. So if you're listening on headphones, hold your ears, right? We'll see. Maybe I'll think about it for a second and see if I can come up with something. Rap some bars. Need to drop some bars. For Aaron. Or, it's the birthday of Aaron West. When it comes to mods, she's one of the best. It's her birthday, so I got this rap song. I'm singing it to her all night long. She comes on every Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday night. So listen to Liberal Dan Radio, talk from the left, that's right. I could probably do it better if I had more time to work on it. That was just off the cuff. Anyway, this week's Words of Redneck Wisdom. I had two to pick from yesterday's Jeff show. I haven't listened to Jeff shows much recently because between being sick and the other just dealing with work stuff, I hadn't really had the time to really focus on listening to Jeff's show, even though sometimes you just listen to it in the background. But I listened Monday morning, and there were two, and I decided instead of choosing between two, I just did both. So without further ado, it's a little longer this week. And again, if for some reason some of the people are having problems hearing, some of the people are hearing it okay, I turned it up a little bit. So here's this week's Words of Redneck Wisdom.
And now, Words of Redneck Wisdom, brought to you by Liberal Dan Radio.
The green agenda. Don't these vegan maniacs realize that carbon dioxide is as much as a lot of a life-giving thing as H2O, oxygen? Without carbon dioxide, there would be no vegetation for them to eat.
Exactly right.
Without vegetation, there would be no herbivores. With no herbivores, there would be no carnivores. And I think we're carnivores and herbivores, but there would be nothing if there was no carbon dioxide, for one thing. It's part of the circle of life. You know what I'm saying? Well, that's all part of the controlled depopulation agenda that they've got going on right now with the psyop of it all.
But anyway, everybody out there needs to call the Congress and tell them to stop the overall prosecution of Trump. And that's not what I call about in general. Now, I've given you a blueprint to stop this invasion we've got going on the southern border, and I would like to see you do something about it. But here's what's going to happen, and you better believe this is what they're aiming for. They're going to get everybody over here that they can, and which would probably be about half the world. And if you get that many people over here, you can forget about the way America used to look. Then from there, they're going to make them citizens. And when they do, they're going to federalize the elections. And you'll never have another free election again. They'll just appoint whoever they want. And that's the way it's going to be. Because that's what they're aiming for now. And I told you to support them. I'm going to tell you again. There needs to be a 35-state coalition to fight this. Everybody that agrees, and leave these Democrats out of it. And then from there needs to be prosecution of manslaughter for the VP, for Biden, and for Garland, because they all know what's going on. And if you don't do it, and if you don't start doing something now, then we're not going to have a country until the governor of Mexico. If one more person comes over here, we're going to come over and invade the northern end, and we're going to destroy it. And we're going to start shooting these cartel members on sight. And anybody that brings them over, they either need to be shot or else put in prison for the rest of their life.
And this concludes Words of Redneck Wisdom, brought to you by Liberal Dan Radio. Talk from the left, that's right.
I just love the point, carbon dioxide is a necessary thing, just like water is. Yeah, and too much of either of them will kill you. That's too much of anything will kill you. Also, I wanted to unmute myself for a second and just be like, it's the circle of life, it's the wheel of fortune. But, you know, I didn't want to speak over the wonderful words of redneck wisdom that were being talked about right there, and the whole manslaughter thing by Cowboy right there at the end right there. What you talking about there? Manslaughter, and why are you gonna charge manslaughter with Biden and Kamala and the AG? What would that be? And then he wants to go off and shoot everybody and kill everybody, I guess, who doesn't agree with you, and all the I'm fine with them if they want to take, you know, all the non-indigenous controlled lands of, like, you know, Montana, North Dakota, South Dakota, Idaho, Utah, Kansas, Nebraska, all that little contiguous area right there in the middle. If they want to, you know, call it Magadistan or whatever, install Donald Trump as emperor for life, as long as he doesn't, you know, go to jail and whatever, and they can just, you know, build their own little wall, even though no one would want to go there. They could just all move into that area and just have their own good old time in their little area. No one would want to go there. They could just replace all of Mount Rushmore with, you know, Trump and Giuliani, and make sure they have, like, the dripping hair dye off of the Giuliani face on there, and then whatever else, other two people, they could put terrorist Barbie, Ashley Babbitt on. I did see the Barbie movie, and I'm very disappointed they didn't include at the end of the movie, in the credits, they did have some of the discontinued Barbie models, but they didn't have the discontinued one that was discontinued on January 6, 2021, the terrorist Barbie model. I was only one, you know, Ashley Babbitt, but I was disappointed they didn't show that one. But otherwise, it was a very good movie. But, you know, I don't know, what other ones would you put up there on the Mount Rushmore of Magadistan or Dumbefistan or whatever you want to call it? Slow Jamistan. With the GQP in charge of the world would become a slurry of sludge. Yep. Don't save. Anywho. But yeah, that was some interesting words right there. I could have done another birthday thing for Aaron. Is the happy birthday, like when I used to work at Bennigan's, you used to sing the happy birthday thing that they used to do there. That dude ate too many paint chips. Yeah, there's a couple of people that call into that show who have talked about some of their previous problems with substances. Whether I think one of them I don't think I featured one of them, but he used to be either, I don't know if it was a drug addict or a drunk or both, but he's talked about that, and I think he converted to Christianity and embraced it. And I have no problem if you need religion to get yourself out of addiction. If that's what helps you, great, more power to you. I'm fine if that's what if you are the type of person that needs that sort of rigidity in your life to be able to get yourself out of the situation that you're in and better yourself. Fine, just don't push your beliefs on anybody else. That's the issue that I have. But then, of course, we've had whatchamacallit, what was that? But Cowboy, this dude.
I do not advocate what Hitler did.
I do not advocate what Hitler did, but you know, that was his lovely thing. But then what's the other one? There's his no, that's the long one. What's the shorter Cash Money one? Yeah.
We don't care about evidence.
We don't care about evidence. That guy used to be I think he was born to a drug addicted parent or something. I think she was addicted to heroin, and that explains part of his problem. And for a while I tried to be a little bit more thoughtful and just try and not be as picking on him, but I just can't. He's just too far gone. PD Dubs, I refer to Ashley Babbitt, the one that was shot on January 6th, as terrorist Barbie. That is my nickname for her, just to piss off the conservatives who believe that she was murdered, even though she was breaking through the broken glass of a locked door, heading towards politicians that were on the other side of that door, in front of a crowd that was shouting "Hang Mike Pence." In front of and behind that crowd were gallows that were erected so they could do just that. So that's why terrorist Barbie is there. So, the Barbenheimer nuked the short pound of freedom, and QAnon is rather upset. Yeah. Yes, there's the link to help P-Dubs. Give P-Dubs out a hand. Appreciate y'all. Y'all have done that, and I appreciate y'all for doing that. You can continue to help P-Dubs out for that link for that GoFundMe. Appreciate y'all for any of y'all who done that. There's also, if you go to liberaldan.com, there's the Buy Me a Cider link, which is also the buymeacoffee.com/liberaldanradio link that Aaron shared earlier. There is the Venmo link at liberaldanradio, at liberaldan, I'm sorry, on Venmo, or just scan the QR code right there. And that'll get you to that. Just send it to friends and family because you're not buying anything. And there's always patreon.com/liberaldan or patreon.liberaldan.com. Either way will get you there. And you can support the show on a monthly basis. You'll get early access to bits as they come up, as I make them. And you can vote on things that come to the show. I gave the listeners who are patrons a vote on whether or not one of my bits that I created was better with or without music in the background, and I ended up going without music because of the feedback that I got, mainly from Wes, and I think Aaron chimed in too. My wife also gave me her opinion as well, so there was that. What else? I'm glad we don't have terrorist Barbies. Well, I'm glad we don't have that one terrorist Barbie. I called her that when somebody did a blinded by the light. I was on TikTok or whatever, and she started off like it was like blinded 'cause they're white, a bunch of little douchebags, something 'cause they're white or whatever. And so I had to I made up some other lyrics that went along with it. It was like, and Proud Boy Jacob with his bearskin rug and makeup, or with his bearskin hat and makeup, plotted a terrorist attack. And terrorist Barbie tried to break through the door in the lobby and ended up flat on her back. So it was, I think, slightly different or slightly better or whatever, but it was quite amusing. So silly monocle oil is nothing more than a battery of the sun's energy, released billions of years of sun energy during the last 120 years. Basically, yeah. And we need to, move away from those fossil fuels. It's funny. I try to make jokes like that when you talked about fossils. Since my sons both went to all Spanish immersion school or whatever, some of the classes were in English after second grade, but he was talking about fossils or something, and I was like, what, are they difficult? Or were they easy, or are they difficult? And he was like, what? And I was like, fossil or difficile? And he looked at me, and it was like he was about to murder me in my sleep. I don't necessarily know if it was illegal necessarily to sing it, but maybe you would get sued for singing it. Because, I mean, maybe you would get sued if you did it, like, in a corporate area. That's probably why, like, Bennigan's made their own, like, happy birthday, happy birthday, that little version. Happy birthday, may all your dreams come true. Happy birthday from Bennigan's to you. Hey, of course we don't have a Bennigan's here anymore. I used to work in Bennigan's for a little bit before, like, I realized it sucked. So, no, I did not see anything about the MAGA who think that Hunter Biden should be impeached. What? That is crazy. How do you impeach somebody who's not even elected to office? That's just absolutely, or not even in a political office whatsoever. How do you impeach Hunter Biden? That's just insane. That's crazy. I mean, of course, I don't expect much from the MAGA folks. They remember when they thought that was it JFK Jr. was going to come back from the dead, or because he wasn't really dead and he was going to reappear at the grassy knoll and come save everybody and be Donald Trump's running mate. Remember when they believed that BS and they were all just sitting there waiting for it to happen and it never happened? Just they believe a lot of stuff. That it's just like the fact that I live in New Orleans in and of itself means I'm not usually around a lot of the whole MAGA people. So, I mean, I could probably go out to Metairie or the North Shore if I wanted to interview people. So, but maybe when I lose a little more weight, I can try to get out there more and do some more man on the street Liberal Dan interviews. Because I have lost overall from my heaviest. The total official weight loss from what my doctor weighed me as from my heaviest is a total of 69 pounds. Nice. And since March, it was 47 pounds. So I've dropped a decent amount of weight, and I'm still continuing and hoping to lose. So we're going to keep on trying to do that and keep on trying to get lighter. So, P-Dubs, how do they get away from copyright? There's just a certain amount of time that a song has to have a copyright protection, and then the song enters the public domain, unless the person who has the song releases it into the public domain early. For example, Tom Lehrer, he released all of his songs, both the music and the lyrics, into the public domain early. So anybody can take his sheet music, anybody can take his lyrics and produce and perform his songs for free. They don't have to pay him anything. They don't have to pay anybody anything. Now, the specific recordings that he's made, I think the labels that produce those albums still have the copyright on those productions. But like, if I wanted to sit here and do an a cappella version of the Masochism Tango or National Brotherhood Week or something, I could sit here and sing all of Tom Lehrer's songs on Blue in the Face, and I'd be able to do it, and I wouldn't be violating anybody's copyright because he released it all to the public domain early. So it's a real blip. You gained what I lost. Well, you're welcome, I guess. Yeah, but I mean, I did have the show. I think it's almost 2 years ago now. I think it was August of 2021, maybe, that I had the show. It was either August or October, but I think it was August that I did the Living Life as an Obese Person, very special episode of Liberal Dan Radio, and I think it was 2 years ago when I did that show. Maybe it was last year. I don't know, but it was a good 3-hour show. I didn't actually come up with everything. I came up with some of the stuff later, but it's just so funny though that when, you know, on like I put up a couple videos on TikTok, and the first thing that people say is, "Oh, you're fat," and I'm like, part of me wants to be like, well, I just lost 70 pounds, so F you, but you know, part of me is like, it's none of your business, and what does that matter? I shouldn't have to defend myself by saying I've lost 70 pounds, because that doesn't matter. It matters the fact that you've conceded the argument to me because you can't argue the point, so you're just going to insult how I look. So there you go. I've won the argument. Thank you. And thank you for helping my algorithms. My algorithms, if you will. But, and of course, sometimes I'll go into the whole thing where if you insult somebody who's fat, you may very well be insulting somebody who is dealing with a weight problem because they were abused as a child, and so you're mocking somebody who is dealing with childhood abuse, and that's not a good thing. So, you know, there's that. But sometimes I feel like people would just mock that too. So I don't go to that place too much, but you know,
it is what it is.
Thank you, Don. See, that was weird. Like, I had weird kind of reverb on that, and I don't know why I'm getting that now. It's very strange. Like, it didn't sound clear. It sounded garbled or whatever. Like, I don't know, I might have to drop this extra piece that I have and just rely on the regular soundboard again, which sucks, but you know.
It is.
See, that's better. But now you can't hear that. Now you can't hear that one. But if I turn it up again,
it is what it is.
And now you can't hear it.
It is what it is.
That's so weird. I don't know. Very strange. No show for Hal tomorrow. We'll see you Friday. Well, look, everybody can then come to the Twitch stream. Twitch.tv/nerdydan.com. Everybody can just join me over there and we can have a party over there on Twitch. Right? We'll talk about politics and what have you. And I've got a lot of stuff to do on Twitch tomorrow. That should be fun. Cynthia from Texas, I just keep buying a larger size. That was my problem for a while. Wait, what would Hal get taken down? I missed something. Missed something from Andrea, maybe? I don't know. I'm not sure. Anyway. Yeah, you can call in, P-Dubs. That's fine. Hopefully you'll be able to hear me. I don't know. But if you can't hear me, just say what you want to say. Just talk. Because for some reason I can't. For some reason the other person who called in couldn't hear me. I don't know why, but who knows. I'm gonna be on vacation this weekend too. I'm gonna be going to Hot Atlanta. So, but we're leaving Friday, so we're not. We do have somebody watching the house, but we'll be away Friday to Monday, so I'm not missing any of my streams or anything. So, I'm hoping Hal comes down here with Nerd Halen so I can see Nerd Halen. And I'd like to, I'd love to be able to, that's good. I want to be able to do a song with Hal too, but I don't know if I think that's me being overly optimistic. We'll see. We will see. I don't know what the deal is with this thing. Like, if I turn this up even more, I think it's going to be even more reverby.
It is what it is.
Yeah, see, it's kind of echoey, and I don't know what the deal is with that. Like, I don't know if I'm getting it twice. Like, I don't know if there's two audios that are hitting and you're hearing it multiple times. I don't know. But, Cynthia, I get more yard work done when Hal cancels the show. That's funny. Yeah, it's amazing how productive we can become when the things we like to do aren't done. Let's see. Let's answer the phone and see if... Can you hear me, P-Dubs?
Hello?
Hello, can you hear me? Can you hear me? I don't think she can hear me. But as I said, just talk.
Hello?
She didn't listen to me.
Okay. I wanted to ask everybody in the chat, I've got this idea about how maybe I can fix my situation. You know, I've been looking for a job for 6 months with no luck. And yesterday I got an idea that maybe I would make homemade dog and cat treats and sell them. And I just wanted some feedback from people. Do you think that might be a good idea, a good way to help my situation? That's it. Thanks.
All right, so just in case that was a little bit low, but just in case anybody didn't hear, P-Dubs is talking about she's been looking for a job for a while and she wants to be able to help her situation, trying to think of a way to help her situation, and one of the things she was doing is thinking about making homemade dog and cat treats. So if anybody in the chat would be interested in such a thing, just, comment in the chat whether or not you would be interested in such a thing or not. I mean, it's possible I'd be interested. I have dogs and cats. As long as the ingredients that would be used would be safe for them, I would be more than happy to buy some. That would be cool. Just make sure that, they're all good, wholesome, safe ingredients, and I would be fine with them, and I trust that you would use... I would trust that you would use that. And it's weird because I heard the feedback on that, but I didn't hear the feedback on the previous call, which is weird. But I think I'm turning down this thing now too. So let's see.
It is what it is.
See, that's still a little bit feedbacky, but
it is what it is.
That's still a little bit feedbacky.
It is what it is.
It's this little dial here, and if I put it down too low, you can't hear it at all. But I don't know what the dealio is. It's very strange. I don't know what the deal is. Yeah, because if it's down too low, you can't hear it at all. If I put it up too high, it's very reverby.
It is what it is.
Yeah, it's like very echoey, and I don't know what the deal is. So I'm going to have to work on that after the show, I guess. But he's flushing in the bathroom. What he's flushing is more documents down the toilet, probably. That's probably what he's flushing. That's for sure. Anywho, I am probably going to go ahead and end the show. I'm making peanut butter and apple tomorrow. Sounds yummy for the pets. Anyway, I'm probably going to go ahead. It is what it is. I'm going to probably go ahead and end the show now. Again, I will be on Twitch tomorrow. If you have not followed me on Liberal Dan Radio on Twitch, please remember to do so. I'm trying to build up that number to at least 50 so that when I do get monetized here, that I can go ahead and start working on that. And the only thing I then have to worry about is making sure I have the listenership over there, which should be easy to do with enough listeners. You only need 3 at a time. I'll have to make sure to do 3-hour shows to make sure to hit affiliate. So when I target it, you're going to be getting 3-hour shows from me for at least a month. 2 3-hour shows at least a month, maybe a third in a week. You might get a lot of me as long as you promise to be there, and I promise to go over to Twitch a bunch too, just to get monetized. Then I might lower it down a little bit because you don't need to. Once you hit the levels, you can drop back a little bit because it's weird that way. I don't know. But the first things first is the first thing we're going to do is we're going to try and make sure to get this monetized first so we can get subscriptions and we can get you can join the channel, you can do super chats and all that fun stuff, because that's what I really want to start trying to get rolling as well, because I think once that starts rolling, I think once those engagements starts happening, I think then we'll start seeing the ball rolling and maybe start getting more and more people, because once we hit that mark, I think that's when the ball's going to start rolling. Hopefully. I could be wrong, but maybe not. But again, I will be... I'm trying to find there it is. Again, Twitch tomorrow, 8 p.m., Twitch Tuesday, 8 p.m., and I'll be back here for the season premiere of Season 12 of Liberal Dan Radio Talk from the Left. That's right. Where we'll be doing the same thing, just another year. Again, another shout out to Aaron for a very, very, very happy birthday. Much love to you from everybody, and I hope to see everybody tomorrow, especially since Hal's not there. Come join us. We'll talk about whatever you want to talk about whilst playing the games. And until next time I see you, this is Dan Zimmerman with Liberal Dan Radio. Talk from the left. That's right.